Hi, this is a guy then, and today I'm coming to you with a different story. It's a story about a game that I played for so many years. I first cut my teeth on this one in 2009. It was the year it went free to play. It was back when free to play was a new concept. Microtransactions was a new concept. And DDO transformed from the monthly subscription model to free to play. Now, to be honest, I've been on a monthly subscription for a very long time because as soon as I enjoyed the game, I started paying for it. This is a journey that is changing. Now, I still play it from time to time. I was really active up until 2016 when my life changed in a major way. And now, here I am with one of my guys, VanQuest. Originally, I meant it to be a coal-based sorcerer, VanQuest Frostdeath. But since then, I have gone through so many different changes. In this iteration, he's a warlock. I like warlock. I have played most of the different classes. I have played most of the different races. There's some that I haven't, and it's not really important. In fact, none of it is tremendously important. Because this is a story about Dungeons and Dragons Online and me, and a change that is about to happen. That is fundamentally changing. Now, I wouldn't say the game, because that's not true. The game is still going to be there. In fact, I don't think anything in the game is going to change. There's not going to be different graphics. There's not going to be a new interface. I'm sure in the future there might be some improvements, but the reality is going from a 32-bit server, the old legacy, to 64-bit is an improvement of hardware and hopefully less lag and issues like that. But there's something else. The end of this is the server name itself and the culture. Because there is a different culture on all of the existing legacy servers. Now I started with Organisms. Why? Because it was the first thing showing up in the list of servers when I decided to create my first character, my account. I know, it sounds really stupid, isn't it? But back then, there wasn't all that information out there in a way that I can make a decision. So, Organism was as good as any of the other one, like Organ, for example. The thing is this. I choose it because it was the top of the list, and I like the name. But I think it was mostly because it was the top of the list. And this was the first area I died in. Orchid of the Macabre. And I'm going to go in there, and it's going to be a breeze. Why? Because I'm a very high level guy with really good equipment, and I know what I'm doing right now as far as playing the game. And the reality is, back in the days, I didn't. In fact, I hardly knew what I was doing. And yes, I'm going to get a bunch of hirelings out. Because why not? Now, I have played every single quest in here. Both in Heroic and in Epic. And I'm not going to bore you with details what the differences are, because this is not about the function of the game. This is just me taking a run in an area that ended up being my first strategy. And I'm talking about just running out with a group of people to do some wilderness as far as farming, which means just kill, and the amount of kills, like you see Slayer up there. You hit certain milestones of the Slayers and you get experience. And it was all that I did. In fact, I didn't know anything about this area at all. I didn't know anything about the character that Adias created. It was a healer type, and it had dex, it has strength, it had all kind of things, including int. And I didn't know that charisma is what boosts its spell points and ability to do things, and constitution is far better than strength. And I just ended up doing my own thing. Of course, I wasn't very good at doing my own thing back then. Not just because I didn't have the material, or I didn't have any of the equipment, or for that matter, a competent guy. But I did it. I went and played and joined a group, and that group ran away from me. There is a mechanic here that slows you down.
Two massive piles of bones
If you
have been heaped here
start spreading out and running past without slaying stuff, then you get dungeon alert. And dungeon alert,
Another target down.
well, if they hit you, then everything slows down. And dungeon alert can be really crippling. And again, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what was going on. And it clearly showed. I was running around in an area, pretty much just following people, hopefully being able to survive somehow. And it didn't go so well. So what am I talking about? What is changing? Well, Argonauts and all the
mission is going
different servers have their own little culture. Everything from people that actively raid all the time. You have different clans or guilds or whatever you want to call it that do nothing but just high-end raid. And then you have this server, Argonauts, which is, as far as I can tell, it's pretty low-key. There are some that have barely any players on it anymore. And that's just the nature of an old game like this that's been going strong since 2006. And now, here in 2026, they're finally switching to new servers. Again, same quests. Nothing's going to change there as far as I can tell. But the culture is going to have to melt. Because you're going from a number of different existing server down to 3 American and 1 European. That's my understanding. And in order to move all your guys and your guild and all of that, you are going to have to go through the rigmarole, deciding where to end up, and then pack your guys up and start moving away. And so new culture is going to grow up. Because as we minimize the amount of servers down to those 3 here in America and 1 in Europe, there is a realization, of course, that all those different specific cultures that made Orion what it is and Kyber what it is,
well done,
is now going to become whatever anyone chooses. And new culture, new groups are going to grow up out of that. And in a way, Argonauts, my original home, is going to be gone. And that
good form,
fills me with a certain nostalgia. And that's kind of weird. Because yes, you are gonna still be going to these servers. You're still gonna log in to these areas. And you're still going to have the same look. There are gonna be new people. Now I remember some of the drama. I started out in a guild called Wrecking Crew. I was invited by one of the OGs that was into it. Now, the Wrecking Crew was originally a sort of clan
The
or guild
corpses
for
hanging
other
from the tree
games
of
than
woe
DDO.
rustle ominously in the wind.
So that was kind of a splinter group, part of this overall larger group that was playing more prominent games. And the DDO version of the same The Wrecking Crew, well, that was something else. There were things that happened.
Over the
One guy
centuries,
got
the
banned.
Black Abbot's
He was a
enemies
really
brought
heavy
to this
player
place
on part of
to
the
be
Wrecking Crew.
slaughtered and sacrificed.
And one of the OG, the leader of the group, eventually ended up leaving, taking a sabbatical. When he came back, well, everything had changed because it'd been a while. And he was kind of behind the eight balls. He was always there on the forefront of being one of the better players and very much high end, doing all the different reincarnations and having the best gear. And then he comes back and all the gear, how they work, had changed, which was really the big thing. Because that meant that he had to start fresh. Now, when he came back, he wanted to start just raiding, just getting into the groove of it. And I will say this. Our group was never really a raiding group. Yes, sometimes we ended up on the same kind of raid team, but it was more accidental than planned. And he wanted to really get back into the groove of playing games and such nature. And there was an invitation of more players just to grow our small little guild. It was just really a core of a few players that had a lot of different alts. Like I do, I have a lot of different alts. And we tried. He would invite, and sometimes it would work, but we were never the kind of guild that had enough members, like the Ace of Kings, that had a very
The
active
mission is
guild
going well.
that was so large that they ended up splitting into several different groups. I don't know if they renamed or it was Ace of King 2 or King of Aces. Was it King of Ace? Yeah, maybe King of Ace. I don't know. And there was a lot of drama with those people too. Back in the day, they were kind of a-holes. Those people have probably disappeared now. Much of them. I think so anyway. And there might be some of the OGs left. But as a guild, I think most of the prominent, bigger names have kind of moved on. Why were they kind of assholes? Well, they like to screw with groups and screw with raids, and they were just very assholey about the whole thing, and especially who could be in the raids and such. Fun stuff. But as we get older, as the game was older and people started moving on to other games, that kind of disappeared. Now, from time to time, when I play different raids, I do come across some of the older ones that have been around for a very long time on Argoness, and you see them in raids. I don't know if they're specifically part of a major guild or if that's just something that they're so used to playing games, so you can kind of find them playing games. And that's cool. I probably recognize them more by their voices over, say, their names. Because, again, a lot of people have a lot of different alts, and therefore it's just not something that's very common. But it is funny. Of all of that, that's gonna now change. And change in a way that it's gonna remain the same. But those people that I got used to meeting now and then and playing games with, they're gonna be gone. Not permanently, but possibly to a different server. And I might get new people that I never had the pleasure of playing and enjoying time with. That's going to be new people too. And that is the beauty of games, but also beauty of change. I'm not saying the culture change is going to be bad. That's not a claim that I'm making. I'm just saying, inevitably, without
This
Arganessen,
cave looks like it might cross through to the other
it's
side.
not going to be the DDO I knew anymore. Not in the same way. I play solo for most part anyway. It would be stupid of me to make a claim that, yeah, now I can't play the game anymore. I played the game just fine before. And I'm going to most likely be able to play the game in the future just fine too. None of that's going to change. But it's a certain nostalgia and sadness of the fact that these things change. After all, I've been playing this game for such a long time. I have played all the new editions that come out.
This small isle stands firm against the dark
And,
murky waters of the swamplands.
As you eventually come to realization is that you have other interests, other games to play. You come back for this nostalgia burst now and then, just playing the game or playing the latest edition that was just released, or maybe you really were done with whatever you were playing and now you want to go back to something like this because you kind of forgot, right? You do a reincarnation, you start from scratch, and all of the planning goes into that, and then you start playing all those old quests and you realize just how much fun you have. You know, you had so much fun going through those that you can barely remember. And then in the back of your mind, you have that feeling like, this is a really cool quest. I like this one. Or you know exactly what's going to be around the corner, but still, you enjoy just the idea of it. And it's very much like watching a show or a movie that's familiar to you. A movie that you might have watched 50 times, but the last time you did it was like 5 years ago. And you start remembering things about the movie and details, and you notice new things. Like, oh, I
The
didn't
eastern
realize that.
crypts house the bodies
I
of those
more or less
most faithful
missed it
to
the
Black
other
Abbot.
50 times. That is what a game like this is. Nostalgia. And now it's going to be a little bit weird. I'm no longer going to see Arganessen popping up. Now, the 32-bit servers don't close out until August 31st. You can start packing up your characters and move it over to the new server on July 9th. But I don't think I'm going to go back for the last nostalgia tour. Once I pack up, once I go through that, once the guild have decided where we want to go, then I will start the process of taking all my guys over there and set up shop, and everything is going to be the same, and everything is going to be new, and there's going to be new people and new cultures. And that's cool. I'm not going to look back. In fact, it's hard to miss something that don't change other than materially a little bit. Again, it's not like the game is changing. It's just the name of the server
We
and
both know this will end in violence.
stuff like that.
Ready, soldier?
Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons Online. I'm not even at the spot we're gonna die that one time. And that's where I'm heading to. While we're having this conversation, while I'm using these words. Just moving along. I was running with a group of people who were really good. Wouldn't it be ironic if it was the King of Aces or whatever they call themselves? And that's why I'm so familiar with their name and why I feel that they're assholes. I don't remember. It was in 2009, for Pete's sakes. You know? But it was interesting, and I was a little bit mad. In fact, the worst time I ever went through in this game, and I've been a few. Some has been triumphs, like taking hours to finish off a quest because we ran on all the resources. We were kind of low end, and we just wanted to finish it, even though half of the troop was just bowing out, couldn't deal with it anymore, couldn't deal with dying anymore. But we trudged on, and sure, we didn't get much because back then the rewards were kind of blah. And we got a little bit experience, and that was about it. But it was something about finishing that, to go through the whole task and feel all awesome afterwards. And then you have played like long raids that took forever, and you failed, and you were so mad because it was just a shit show. You know what I mean? But one brings me to memory. So I joined as I think was a favorite, what do you call, favorite soul, which is a healer type, but more on the kind of DPS warrior side. But I was pretty good as actual healer, so not cleric, but good at healing. Well. And these people had done these quests like so often, and I was trying to follow them. They were just running all over the place, constantly wanting healing, and I couldn't be everywhere. They just split up and went all kind of ways, and then people died, and I had to get them up and try to heal them. They were just running through all kind of traps and getting hurt and all that. And I was genuinely trying to do my best to keep them up. But apparently, I was too slow for them. Even though, again, they were just all over the place, running all over the place, splitting up. Now, this was out in, what is that one called? Gosh, I forget. Queen something? Where the demon queen, the Sands of Manectarin? Is that what it's called? Anyway, so we were in one of those, the large one, the really big quest in that has that undead, and there's like towers that you can go to, and you can get a lot of experience just doing it. And that was tough. Well, we did it because they were really good, and I would do my best to get them up and heal them. And they said, like, well, we just go back. And as soon as we went back to repair and whatnot, they just dumped me. And I got mad. I got genuinely mad because I'm not an unreasonable person. But the reason why we kept dying, or they kept dying, wasn't due to me not trying to get them up, because I did. I did heal them as much as I could, but because they were just running ahead. You know. And for them, this was just another quest, doing it really fast as they were on their reincarnation kick and whatever. But to me, it was the first time I was playing it. I had not been there before. And now I view it a little bit different, but then I was generally pissed off. Because it all felt so rude. And that has stuck with me.
Get way down.
I can't even tell how long ago that was, but it was probably back in 2009 too, when I was playing actively that character. I haven't played that character in forever because it kind of broke. I reincarnated it to cleric and then realized that I didn't really care for it. It was so different from my own favorite soul, and I kind of give up on it. It has okay stuff on it, but it's stuff that's old in comparison to new. Now, the good thing is that a lot of the stuff that you can find today is bound to
Well
count,
done.
meaning that you can just put it in the bank and then have someone else pick it up. However, it's still all of the named stuff that I picked up on it is pretty much old. That was before
These ornate
Epic
tombs are the
Giant
resting
Hold
place of the
and
Black
the
Abbot's
one that came
family,
after that.
sleeping with death until the day he ascends.
What happened with that particular update was that they pretty much changed it. They changed the entire thing on how you do weapons and named items. And that changed later on too. So they went from the old convention, I have really cool different names. Giant Hold has these really high-end name stuff, at least for that time. And I think it was like level 25. Now we're at level 34? Yeah. And back then, that was kind of like the epiphany of the old Epic system. And then they decided to change that. And all that stuff got worthless. So all those guys that I have with that old Epic loot is just garbage. It is. I spend so much time getting some of that stuff. And they're all bound to character too. And now that's worthless. Not been updated. Shadowfell. Well, Shadowfell was that update that destroyed it all. And afterwards they did some changes. But now the items are they're created in such a way that as the levels are increased in the game itself, it also increases the stats on them. So they're more bound to the levels. Before, it was just manufactured specifically for that pack and whatnot, which meant that it was a little bit, it was very little growth and possibility in the game itself. You were stuck for the longest time. It's like 6 was the max stat on a given item. And you got there fairly early, I think at level 13. So at 20, you had to be maxed out for like forever. And then they started changing that. And then after Shadowfell, they changed that. But eventually they came to the point where now everything increases with the different difficulty levels. And that is now. And I'm okay with that change. Obviously, it needed to be done. But at the time, that was really abrupt. And you really felt betrayed of all that time that you spent doing all that just to have the system not changed once, but several times. And then you kind of had to start from scratch. So if you then reincarnate, you have those old items, right? And they're now worthless. So now you have to start picking up new items as you reincarnate. Luckily, they come up with a system where you can make your own items. And that one had been a lifesaver because you could then make well, they had one originally, but that was so garbage that once they changed everything with a new itemization scheme, they also fixed that. And you can make then bound to account stuff for yourself with some limitations, but it's really a good system, especially to find those stopgap kind of items. And there you
Another
go.
target down. On to the
That
next.
is my story about DDO and some of the things that I came across. And here we are. It was around here that I got ambushed. They were way ahead of me. They were setting off dungeon alert galore. I got slowed down and I died. And no one came back to pick me up. And there I was, this blue little soul-looking thing in the landscape and dead. I would end up reincarnate that guy a couple of times. And I finally learned what the different stat did and why you shouldn't have dexterity on just a guy to have dexterity on a guy, but rather to have dexterity on a guy because it makes sense, right? I learned at that time to play the game, how to use certain spells, and as I improved over each reincarnation, I started finally learning the system. As I always done with games, figuring out, reading up a little bit. I don't think I have ever copied anyone else's. So there are those that often talk about different, let's say, barbarian with certain stats and barbarian with certain skills, enhancements, etc. And I never copied anyone else's work because I always had fun being myself. I have played all type of different multi-class and whatnot, but I don't multi-class that often. I had played Favorite Soul many years before I kind of gave up on that. And now Favorite Soul is so much better because of the kind of deity that you can works a little bit like a warlock, right? You have your deities that you can then pledge yourself to and whatnot. And that's cool. All of that is very cool. I'm running out of buffs. I've been running around for so long. I'm just going to get myself to a heal point, which I believe is over here somewhere. And then I am going to log off for this time. Can I see something on the map here? Oh, there we go. That's where we want to go. That's where we're heading. That's the shrine. And yeah.
A massive tree has fallen here, forming a convenient, if unconventional, bridge.
It sure is convenient, and it sure isn't unconventional. I will confess one thing. It is not as difficult anymore like it was in the beginning, and that's fine. Who says that it has to be difficult?
Got one.
Right? After all, I've done so many reincarnations. I have all the tools. I know how to build the character, so obviously it's not going to be as difficult. Not like in the very beginning when you had nothing and, you know, you're learning new things all the time. There are those that pines for everything to get really super difficult, so they came up with the Reaper levels, and now people, of course, are, you know, with the right group, Reaper's nothing. So what's going to be the next? Dragon levels after Reaper? I don't know. I just know this, that I am never pined necessarily to make everything overly difficult. Because what's the point of incrementally increasing your power and getting better items if you always fail anyway? There's nothing wrong with failing, right? There's nothing wrong with challenge. But what's the point of doing this for all these years if you're constantly going to outstrip yourself of your abilities because you want to feel alive? Well, that is an interesting point, isn't it? To me, at this stage, is maybe they will have some items that I like. Maybe there's a new itemization scheme. But the reality is that I have probably walked away from this game a lot more than it's giving me these days. But that's fine. Now, there's going to be a change. A new culture. New people. And it's going to be interesting. But will it lure me back? Is the idea of 64-bit and more stable engines or more stable servers Gonna lure me back? I don't think so. I'm not looking to go back to reinvent the wheel. But it's gonna be interesting. And saying goodbye to Argonessen, it's not difficult per se. As long as we decide for which server to go to, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna see the same people again. Same few people still playing in our guild. And that's fine. There was a time when I played with my wife and then she stopped. And now sometimes I dual box with her character. But that's fallen behind because obviously I can't afford buying products to all of the different accounts. But again, it is interesting. And this was my hello from Argonessen and my goodbye. Next time I log in, I'm going to start packing up my characters, follow the instructions, and move it over to the new server. I'm going to say hi to the new server, and that's going to be it. I might play from that server, obviously. There is a new thing coming out that looks interesting, and of course I'm curious as to playing those. But here is my troop of hirelings and me. My character. Saying goodbye, Argonessen. In the very area so Farwell died for the first time. I left behind. But I came back. I was mad that one time, being dumped in the middle of a group. That made me mad, but you get over it because it's just a game. But here I died in the middle of nowhere, no clothes to anywhere to get back, so I had to, release and then start fresh and heal up, which I've done plenty of times. But that was the first, and it was so strange because that taught me something. It's just a game. Don't get too attached at the moment. But here I am, around the same spot as I died. Overwhelmed by dungeon alert and small creatures. The same creatures that really don't stand a chance. Even if I didn't have the hirelings, I can still take care of all of them real easy. Even at level. And that's not braggadocio or anything like that. That's just a verification that my guy had plenty of the stats, the skills, the reincarnations to do that with ease. But it is interesting. At this very moment, as I stand there surrounded by the dummies, the hirelings that I had collected over the years, and Drossheart being the new one. And this might just be the last time I'm gonna do anything on this server other than packing up characters and moving over. Loading it into the wagon and take the trek over to the new 64-bit server. Unpackage and feel just a slightly different. Just a slightly different. Argonessen. My home away from home since 2009, July 2nd. I hope you will have a great life until August 31st. I hope the decommissioning of you as a server, someone's gonna take advantage of the hardware for something. Make it an email server, maybe. That Argonessen as a name can still exist out there like a whisper. I remember Argonessen. It was a cool place. It was top of the list of servers, and I picked it. But it still became a home. Argonessen. I hope you have a great summer. And by the summer's end, you're going to be decommissioned. But until then, I hope you have the best of days. In these strange times, I hope people play and have fun. And as they turn off the light, close the door, flip the switch, and power it down, and fans go silent. They rip you out of the rack, plonk you down on the corner. My friend, until we meet again, adieu.